The Vatican archives, whenever they're going to be opened, are going to reveal extraordinary levels of details.
Hidden away in locked vaults and whispered about by rabbis, Solomon's dangerous writings have finally been decoded by Grok AI. The promise was always wisdom, but the reality is a technical guide to interacting with intelligences that don't belong here. Yeah, about that. The AI warns that the text is literal, not a metaphor. See, Solomon wasn't just a king. He was a gatekeeper for a power that came from the stars.
The traditional view, which follows the biblical account, says that David and Solomon ruled a powerful kingdom in the 10th century.
What most people don't realize is that the temple was built as a machine. The truth is finally out. Legacy built on forbidden wisdom. If you rewind history 3,000 years, past the broken stones and the empires that vanished into sand, what you find waiting there is a kingdom that shouldn't have worked at all. Israel, under King Solomon, was small. On the map, it barely registered as more than a tiny sliver of land. But in reality, it was a phenomenon. A compact nation with an influence so outsized that its shadow still stretches across modern religion, politics, and culture. Solomon inherited a unified kingdom from his father, King David, and then pushed it to heights no one expected. Under his rule, Israel reached the peak of its wealth, power, and spiritual authority. Ancient accounts weren't being poetic when they said gold was treated like ordinary stone in Jerusalem. For starters, the king had a fleet of ships that traveled far across the ocean, bringing back exotic animals, spices, and precious metals every 3 years. People from distant lands didn't just hear about Solomon, they came to study him. Some came to learn, while others came because they were afraid not to. The visit of the Queen of Sheba wasn't just a fairy tale or a romantic legend, it was a diplomatic event of global importance that involved thousands of people. She arrived with caravans loaded with gold, rare spices, and treasures, and possibly political motives of her own. Her journey spanned over 1,200 miles across harsh deserts, all to test the wisdom of a man whose reputation had reached the ends of the earth. And according to some traditions, she didn't leave empty-handed. Whispers claim she left with something far more dangerous, the Ark of the Covenant. Myth or memory, the message is the same. Solomon's kingdom was wrapped in knowledge, power, and secrets we are only beginning to question. Hands down, he was the most powerful man of his era, but the source of that power remained a mystery. But here's the catch. The gold and the fame were just the surface of something much deeper. This historical foundation sets the stage for a discovery that would eventually rattle the very foundations of modern science. Fragments reunited by artificial intelligence. For centuries, experts studying Solomonic lore found themselves chasing breadcrumbs scattered across ancient manuscripts in different languages. There were fragments in the Testament of Solomon, and others appeared in sections of the Lesser Key. Still more lay buried in obscure magical papyri, half-legible marginal notes, and monastic archives that hadn't been opened in generations. Everyone assumed these were separate works, cousins of the same mythic tradition. But Grok AI noticed something humans never could. Line by line, symbol by symbol, it started linking obscure phrases and stylistic fingerprints together. Passages written in Hebrew echoed patterns in Old Greek papyri found in Egypt. Aramaic notes matched Latin footnotes added centuries later by monks who didn't even know what they were copying. Even damaged lines from locked monastery vaults synced perfectly with medieval ciphers believed to be unrelated. Then came the breakthrough. These weren't separate texts at all. According to Grok's cross-linguistic reconstruction, every single fragment belonged to one original manuscript. It was a single book written by Solomon himself, a book deliberately dismantled, scattered, encrypted, and hidden because of what it contained. The AI processed over 2 million lines of code to bridge the gaps in the damaged parchment. It reconstructed the geometry of the letters and realized they formed a specific frequency pattern. Basically, the book wasn't meant to be read. It was meant to be activated. The title wasn't metaphorical. It was called Forbidden. It's not that simple though, because the AI didn't just translate the words, it reconstructed the intent behind them. What Grok produced wasn't a story. It was a manual for an empire that existed behind a veil. And that's putting it lightly, because the instructions were so precise they resembled modern software documentation. The reconstructed text points toward a physical object that served as the key to this ancient forbidden system. Golden artifact of cosmic authority. Every forbidden power has an origin, and most legends describe Solomon as the wise king who spoke with God. But the forbidden text translated by Grok AI paints a different picture. In its pages, Solomon isn't just a king, he's the bearer of a celestial artifact. A ring that seems less like a blessing and more like a cosmic gamble. According to the translation, the ring didn't originate from any earthly craftsman. No jeweler shaped it, and no priest consecrated it. It arrived straight from the heavens, delivered by an archangel in answer to a plea born out of fear. During the early construction of the temple, everything looked normal by day. Workers carving stone, priests offering blessings, and architects laying out the sacred blueprint. But when night fell, something else took over. A demon named Orneus slipped into the site like a silent thief, undoing progress one shift at a time. Tools vanished, and stones weighing over 500 pounds mysteriously shifted. Foundations that had been leveled perfectly would crack overnight. Workers reported bruises, whispers, and shadows that felt alive. Worst of all, a young laborer was being targeted directly. Orneus drained his strength and stole half his pay. The text insists that the entity fed on the boy's vitality through his right thumb. By the time word reached Solomon, his crew was terrified. No amount of wisdom or royal command could stop something they couldn't see. So, the king did the only thing he believed would work. He prayed. The response was immediate. The forbidden manuscript describes the archangel Michael appearing in a vision so intense that Solomon nearly collapsed. The description is almost terrifying. There were no soft wings or gentle glows. It was a radiance like molten metal and a voice like rolling thunder. In Michael's hand was a small golden ring engraved with a symbol that didn't match any known alphabet. It pulsed with light as if something inside it was alive. This celestial gift allowed Solomon to take control of a situation that was spiraling out of human hands. Structured empire behind the veil. When Solomon woke, the ring was real, glittering in his palm. He wasted no time testing it and confronted Orneus directly. Raising the ring and speaking the demon's true name, the creature materialized instantly, yanked into view as if on a celestial chain. Orneus, this entity that had terrorized his workers for weeks, fell to its knees, powerless. And then Solomon did something no one expected. He ordered Orneus to take the ring and use it to bind another demon. This is where the story jumps from supernatural to strategic. Solomon built a chain of command using demons themselves. Like a dark divine pyramid scheme, each bound demon had to capture another and another until Solomon stood before 72 spirits. Each was forced to reveal its name, function, and the sigil that would forever bind it to the king's will. Solomon put them to work, literally. The Forbidden Book claims the demons helped lift stones that weighed over 80 tons. They transported materials from hundreds of miles away and shaped the architecture in ways no human workforce could. When they weren't building, Solomon interrogated them. They taught him the secrets of alchemy, the locations of hidden treasures, and the movement of the stars. Most people know Solomon built the first temple, but few know how impossible that project was. The precision of the architecture was far beyond the tools of the time. According to Grok's translation, Solomon used the ring to command supernatural entities to quarry and shape the stone. Essentially, he used an invisible workforce to construct the holiest building in ancient Israel. But the text makes one thing clear. Power has a cost. The ring elevated Solomon, but it also tempted him to explore rituals that were not meant for humans. The king's control began to slip as he became intoxicated by the authority he held over these ancient beings. Cosmic blueprints for sacred portals. The deeper Solomon dug, the more the invisible realm began to look less like a swarm of monsters and more like a government. The 72 spirits weren't a mob, they were a hierarchy arranged with military precision. At the top were kings, beings with the power to command entire regions of the unseen world. Beneath them were dukes, princes, and knights. Every rank was responsible for legions of lesser spirits. Solomon recorded the numbers meticulously. Some kings commanded 200 legions while others controlled 66. This wasn't mythology, it read like census data. One entity, Baal, appears first in the records. He is described with 3 heads and the power to grant invisibility. Solomon supposedly relied on him during tense diplomatic negotiations to anticipate betrayals. Another spirit, Phurkes, is an artist of the celestial spheres. He taught Solomon how sound and vibration could influence solid stone. Ammon appears as a wolf with a serpent's tail, but his real value was his knowledge. The text calls him the keeper of forgotten truths. Using this information, Solomon applied otherworldly insights to every corner of his kingdom. He used strategic knowledge to outmaneuver rival nations and learned the geometry of sacred proportion. Spirits connected to the stars revealed celestial cycles that allowed for better agriculture. Each demon created a personal seal, a geometric signature that anchored its identity. These weren't random doodles, they combined triangles, circles, and mathematical ratios. Drawn correctly at the right hour, the seal acted like a summons. By the time he finished, Solomon had built a guidebook for the invisible world. But the most unsettling thing Grok uncovered had nothing to do with spells. The real bombshell was what these entities claimed about reality itself. They described existence as multiple levels stacked on top of one another, each vibrating at its own frequency. The physical world is just the heaviest layer, while the spiritual realms exist at faster frequencies. This layered reality meant that the temple was not just a building, but a highly technical interface. Humanity rebuilding Solomon's dangerous legacy. According to Grok's translation, Solomon's temple was a carefully engineered portal complex. It was built on a site where the boundary between dimensions was unusually thin. Nothing about the temple was accidental. Not its measurements, not the materials, and not the layout of its rooms. Every element was designed to stabilize interaction between the physical world and higher realms. At the center was the Holy of Holies. It served as an anchor point where spiritual and physical vibrations lined up perfectly. This is why the rules were so strict. For anyone unprepared, the concentration of energy would be overwhelming. The Ark itself was a working device that acted as a stabilizer. But here's the most disturbing part that the AI discovered. When Grok translated the book, it realized the language matched technical documentation, not myth. The rituals were step-by-step procedures with expected results. The AI found that the structure of the ancient text matches modern scientific papers and military reports. Statistically, they are a perfect match. The text read like a classified briefing on non-human intelligence. Grok even raised a red flag, asking why contemporary systems are replicating the same contact protocols. In plain terms, why are we doing this again? The AI noticed that modern architecture and technology echo the same structures Solomon described 3,000 years ago. We are rebuilding the same system, perhaps without even realizing it. Solomon believed what he wrote, and he wrote it as a warning for those who would follow. The real question isn't whether these entities exist, it's why our most advanced computers see our modern world reflected so clearly in an ancient manual. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee the truth. Could we be accidentally reopening doors that King Solomon tried to bolt shut for eternity? What if our new technology is just the old ring in a digital form? Tell me what you think in the comments. Please like and subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown.